Hello there, welcome back to Nerd.World Films and another Nerd Talks, which I shall point out up front, going to be full spoilers for this film. And today I want to talk about an Arnold Schwarzenegger helmed movie called Sabotage, released in 2014. It has a pretty decent cast and is a surprisingly good film for later in his career. Arnold Schwarzenegger, who, let's face it, hasn't been doing his best work for the last 10-15 years, has he? But this film is back on form. So please like, share, subscribe, comment down below if you're enjoying the content on this channel, and check out all my other links to my other channels and socials and Patreon and other things that are all sort of down in the description box below. And with that said, let's get on to Sabotage. So, to start off with, this film begins with actually a little bit of character development. Schwarzenegger is playing John Breacher Wharton, the head of a DEA assault team who have a pretty fierce reputation for getting the job done by any means necessary. In the course of doing this, him and his admittedly sometimes flawed team have made themselves a few enemies along the way. Taking out the head of a drug cartel didn't do them any favors in the criminal world. But normally, who would care about that? These are a bunch of badasses doing what badasses do, badassing about all over the place. Unfortunately, John's character development, his story, is as a consequence of how successful they were in retaliation for his actions. His family, his wife and his son, had been abducted, his wife was sexually assaulted, and his son was tortured, and both of them were then executed by the cartel. So then the movie picks up after these events, where Schwarzenegger's character he's in his later life, he's past his prime, but he's still working, because the only thing he's got left in his life to work for is his career, is his job, is his team, and the brief hope that he might just be able to take revenge upon the people that murdered his wife and son and took away his whole future, everything he could possibly have had, anything he could have done. He's got no reason to retire, nothing to look forward to upon doing it. So then they come across this job where they're sent in to take out this, some of them are undercover, they're sent in to take out this cartel bust sort of thing going down, bad stuff, bad guys, guns, you get the basic picture. But they've come up with a plan. They know these guys have a big pile of cash in the basement of the building, and they decide they're going to lift a little bit off the top before they burn it all down. Who's going to know? A load of burnt up cash? Who's going to be able to count the bills in that? So they take $10 million, stuff it down a drain, and then when they go to retrieve it later on, it's gone. They assume that either someone found it or some member of the cartel that was down escaping through some sewer access basement door or something found it and ran off with it. But then members of their team start to drop. They believe that the cartel is after them to try and recover their money and revenge for the burning of the other $290 million or so that was sort of loitering around in small change in the basement when they burnt the building to the ground. So, in the course of this action as well, the DEA is also wondering, where is this $10 million? So they begin to cast their gaze on the team and think that they've stolen it. But with members of the team dropping, it becomes apparent that someone within the team may have taken the money and now be eliminating the other members of their own team. The good thing about this film is it doesn't portray all these people as superhuman gods. They're not perfect individuals. Each one of them has their own flaws, their own strengths, their own weaknesses. Some of them have drug addictions, others have problems with other vices, sexual deviances. These are not perfect men and women, and they show the scars of a life of violence and fighting against people who are basically the scum of the earth, and how some of that is rubbed off on them and how that can change them as people. And then add to this the people, the men, the women that they fought alongside for all these years. One or more of them may now be killing the other members of the team. And John is trying to hold his team together while at the same time defending them against the scrutiny of DEA agents that think that they stole the money. Now, they did steal the money, but they don't have the money, so in a sense, as far as he's concerned, fuck it, who cares? No, you don't care about the money, you don't need the money. So, no harm, no foul. He was looking at it as, I've got nothing else in my future I can use. We'll retire on this. Each of us is going to get like $1 million. We can all go away and retire. Nice and easy. But someone clearly thought different. And the basic story of the movie progresses from here, where as the team whittles down in numbers to avoid scrutiny, avoid the cartel, and to possibly avoid each other, they all start to go their separate ways, separating out until eventually it burns down to just a few of them left. And turning on each other, they go out their separate ways, but they eventually work out who it is. I'm not going to actually spoil who amongst the team was behind all of this, but they weren't killing the other members of the team because they had the money. They were killing the other members of the team because they wanted to know who had the money. And they were basically searching for it and systematically going through it. So it also shows that some of these people have become just as bad as the people they were sworn to take down. Now, the film has a lot of compelling characters. It touches on some very dark themes. It embraces the darker side of humanity and shows that even heroes are flawed people. It has a lot of heart, and it is actually well paced and well scripted. It goes from fast action to a slow pause, some bit of development, only to throw you back into the action again, just pausing long enough for you to settle, collect, and reflect upon exactly what's going on, while at the same time trying to pick apart the puzzle of who may have taken the money. Did members of the team really betray the other members of the team, and are they being eliminated by the cartel? Are they being eliminated by one of their own member? Or is it someone else entirely? It's not until the end of the film that it is truly revealed that it really actually is a member of the team who is doing it, but they're trying to locate who actually has the money, so the mystery is still not solved. Now, I won't spoil the ending, but I will say that the ending of this film does have a fairly satisfactory conclusion to it, which is pretty damn badass, actually, as an ending of a film. And again, as I said, Schwarzenegger's not been on best performance for the last few years, but in this film, he's way up there. This is a film that's probably on par with Eraser or End of Days, one of his sort of turn of the century movies that they weren't spectacular, but they were by no means duds like Junior. And he's playing the role that he is basically gifted to play, an over-the-hill, past his prime individual who's still a kick-ass man, still a leader amongst his peers. And just so we've covered it, the cast. As I said, this is a pretty decent cast. Of course, we've mentioned Arnold Schwarzenegger, but we've also got Terrence Howard, Max Martini, Sam Worthington, Josh Holloway. Generally, some really decent character actors. Mostly. He has his moments. But a lot of these people, I mean, this Max Martini, I don't know ever seen this guy not play a soldier or a cop. I remember I first saw him in The Unit, which, if you've never watched The Unit, I highly recommend it. He plays a soldier, shockingly. It's a unit of soldiers. Really good show. This film has a decent cast, and it's a cast similar to sort of, I'm going to say, as I compared this to early 21st century movies, turn of the century, this is not the highbrow Tom Hanks Oscar award-winning cast. What it is a cast of people who have acting abilities that are focused, to put it politely, and this film is able to focus their acting abilities into something that is useful. It channels them, a cast of people who have limitations on their abilities, but placed into a movie like this, those limitations become strengths. And they're not expected to win an Oscar for their performance. They're not expected to be standing out, but for what they can do, for the acting that they can carry, they will take this film and they will turn it into something glorious, and that's effectively what we end up with this film. Something glorious. So my final thoughts on this film is it is not an award-winning movie, and it's not gonna completely blow your mind, but it does have something that a lot of films lack, and that is an actually good story. And it's competently acted, as I said, by actors who aren't Tom Hanks. They're not the kind of people who will make you cry or belly laugh, but they are people who put into the right movie, in the right role, they'll carry it to a place where you will sit and you will enjoy 90 minutes or whatever length this film is. It's about 2 hours long, I think. You're going to enjoy 2 hours sat there watching this film. It'll take you into their world. It'll immerse you, it'll take you out, and it'll give you an experience which is worth having, which is saying something nowadays. So it's not the best movie, it's not a perfect movie, but what it is a good movie, and that's why I'm going to score it in my elaborate awesome scoring system a good 5 out of 6. 5 because this film does let itself down in some ways. I won't say it's predictable, it's not actually that predictable. I was pleasantly surprised. Normally I can pick out how I've watched so many films for so long. I was a film student, I used to work in the industry. For me it's sometimes fairly simple to see where a film is going, narratively speaking. But with this one, it's not that lets it down. There are certain story elements that sort of don't resolve themselves. So, for example, how the hell does anyone know that they took $10 million? It's a little distracting that either those DEA agents that weren't there, had nothing to do with the investigation, somehow magically knew that $10 million was missing out of $300 million that got burnt. So there's none of it left. It's not like anyone could count it. Somehow they knew that 10 million was missing. How? There was no way they could have known. This team was so well oiled, this was so well planned. There was no witnesses other than members of the team. There's no way anyone could have known it. Things like that sort of let the story down, but overall, it's a good film and it's enjoyable, and it deserves a watch. I think it's currently viewable on Netflix, at least in the UK. I imagine you can find it on other streaming services wherever you are in the world, and I highly recommend it. It is worth a watch. It isn't going to blow your mind, but it is going to keep you entertained. So there we have my full spoiler review of this film, and discuss in the comments below if you've seen it, what do you think of it, and do you agree with my assessment that Arnie's not being at his best. A lot of his films recently have been a little lackluster and a bit samey, but this one stood out as being very different, compelling, and actually having a good character-driven story, which is something I enjoy. If you don't, fine, but this film has something for me in it, and I hope it does for you too. Now, with that said, please like, share, subscribe, comment down below any thoughts you have and any other films you'd like me to look at if I don't have time. Mention it in the comments below, and if you made it all the way to the video, thank you for watching, and bye-bye.